kids, we've got another drawing tutorial today, working on another day of Inktober. So this is day 5, October 5th, and today we are going to be drawing a merchant and a messenger Lilliputian who are lost. So I have the thumbnail sketch here, super duper basic, and yesterday, probably not yesterday in your time, but yesterday in my time, we drew this Lilliputian traditionalist family. So we're kind of expanding on that idea. So I am drawing in a Strathmore mixed media art journal, which is not the best paper for ink washes, as I have unfortunately discovered. And for this tutorial, I'm going to use a non-photo blue pencil. My apologies, it doesn't show up on camera super well, but because this is part of my Inktober, I'm going to stay consistent with my materials, and I will try to do what I can to augment your ability to see it, as well as several erasers, because hey, we make mistakes. So today we're going to be covering more constructive human anatomy. We're going to be covering a little bit of animal anatomy. We're going to be talking a little bit about costume design, etc. If you are working on a project similar to this, I highly recommend you create a photo morgue. That is a collection of photo references, either on your computer or on a service such as WeHeartIt or Pinterest. I use Pinterest for mine, and I have for a few years. That's just kind of where all my information is at. So I would recommend you pull up some inspiration or some reference and get ready to start drawing. So one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and start kind of doing a sketchy placement for everything. Now, sometimes I'll subdivide the page up so that I can really get a better composition. But given how I'm doing my Inktober this year, there's a lot of erasing involved. So I'm trying not to put down more lines than necessary. So we'll see how it goes. So I have here 2 kind of lines of gesture. And I'm just gonna block everything in really lightly. And I apologize because I do know it is very, very light. Hopefully somebody with a little editing magic can do something to maybe make it a little easier to see. Of course, one of the bonuses to being so light is it's very easy for me to erase and adjust. Like I said though, I'm really just trying to place the characters right now. And they're holding a big, kind of crumpled up map. Like his pose, so I'm gonna go ahead and fix it. So we have our super basic sketch down. Now I'm going to start kind of refining, tightening things. I definitely want to fix them first, because if they're still wrong, it's going to skew, it's going to mess up the whole thing. So they're kind of the most important thing to fix. So what we're looking at here is a male Lilliputian and a female Lilliputian, and she's taller than he is, so he's kind of a shorter guy. And his squirrel and her turtle, or tortoise, he is a messenger Lilliputian and she is a merchant, or a merchant Lilliputian. So they're both kind of nomadic Lilliputians, and they would not normally travel together, but they've kind of run into each other, and neither of them knows where they are going. So that's kind of my thought process for this. And already I've started by drawing his ribcage, slightly too large. So I begin with my old standard of the egg as sort of the basis for the rib cage. And I've explained this in a few tutorials. And we're basically working with a rectangular or trapezoidal form. And this allows me to kind of change it as necessary with wider shoulders or wider hips, kind of depending on what I need and the person I'm drawing. He's going to be kind of a thin guy, so I draw kind of a wheel axle for the pelvis. And even though this is hidden by the map, or it's going to be hidden by the map. I'm still going to kind of draw through, and it's really important to do, especially when you're newer to drawing. I see a lot of people just kind of like they start drawing a pretty eye and then they guess where everything else goes in relation to that. And that's great if you're doodling, but I also hear a lot of people say, you know, why can't I draw the left eye the same way I do the right eye? Because you got to plan this stuff. I'm actually not going to worry about doing like a good gesture for his legs, but I do kind of skeletal form for the legs and the feet, and sort of triangular shapes for the feet. All really basic stuff, just kind of lightly sketched in. So we start with a sphere for his head. And then we kind of bring it down into like a spade-esque shape, or like a face mask kind of thing. And he's looking down, so the horizon line, the horizontal dividing line on the sphere is going to be lower. I'm going to start fleshing her out next, and then I'll start doing more kind of construction with both of their anatomy. So when drawing men, drawing women, drawing kids, whatever, the basics are all the same. It's really just the proportions that you draw things in. So we're going to start again with an egg shape for the rib cage, and mark our neck hole as well as our dividing lines. And rather than a rectangle, we have more kind of an hourglass shape for her. Same axle for the pelvis, and skeletal lines for the legs, with just kind of a dot to indicate where the knees are. And again, nobody's really going to see the legs, but it's important for me to demonstrate drawing through, and I would draw that anyway. It helps you understand kind of where their center of gravity is going to be. A cylinder for her neck, and maybe I'll go back and draw his head because his neck isn't really very long. A sphere for her head. All right, so we have the basics for these two figures drawn. Now we're going to go ahead and start fleshing these characters out, doing a little bit more construction. I can go ahead and move my thumbnail sketch out of the way. I'm going to start with her because her gesture is a little more clear. I kind of want her like, well, you guys can't see, but like touching her face in kind of a sort of gesture. So I use kind of curved, and I'll zoom in so you guys can better see, kind of curved cylinders, so they're a little more organic. I'm just kind of sketching her hand in there so I have a better idea of how the end product's going to look. And I should also go ahead and just kind of rough in her bust. And I'm just going to go ahead and rough in her legs as well, just so you guys can kind of get a good idea of how that's done. So although it's not going to be visible, I'll go ahead. She actually has kind of a long torso, but I'll go ahead and kind of sketch in her leg. So the weight is on this leg here. So I'm going to flesh this one out first, and I'm going to draw this one in kind of a contrapposto pose where, you know, like one of those languid Roman statues, that kind of a pose. Said no one's going to really see this because it's covered by the map. All right, next I'm going to start fleshing him out. And once you have kind of the basic construction down, the basic shapes down, you can really tailor them to suit your own art style or to suit the character. You can go more muscular, you can go more angular. It's really up to you at that point. I'm just kind of demonstrating a basic technique to get the human figure drawn quickly and fairly accurately. So think of this kind of as like a mannequin that you can dress up to suit whatever needs you have. And I apologize that my cover sheet, which is to protect the non-photo glue from transferring onto my hand and smearing all over the paper, is covering up a lot of the drawing. It's a necessary part of my illustration, but hopefully I have been able to provide enough uncovered examples so you guys can actually see what's going on. Given his frame, I've drawn his shoulders a little wide. That's okay. Bodies come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. I just have to make sure I do it consistently on the other side. Her gesture is a lost kind of gesture. I want his to also indicate that they're lost without being too repetitive. I also don't want it to look like they're a couple. I'm sure that's how it'll come across, but that's not my intention. No, actually, one of them should have a compass. And recreating the poses can be really, really helpful. So it's handy to have a mirror at your desk or use your cell phone, have someone take pictures for you. Okay, so now we have our basic sketch of our two Lilliputians. It's time to sketch in our squirrel and our tortoise. So normally when I'm drawing something like a squirrel, when I'm drawing any kind of animal, I'm going to draw it through the same way I would draw people. I do tend to use simpler, more organic shapes just because with animals you definitely can get away. In fact, you probably should go more for gesture. Unfortunately, with my Inktober's, I have to erase almost every line I put down. And yes, that is a thing I did to myself, but it also kind of like limits how willing I am to put down, draw through lines. So I'm going to try and demonstrate them and just do it as lightly as possible. You wouldn't even see his little arms anyway. I'm pretty fond of squirrels as Lilliputian mounts because I'm just kind of fond of squirrels in general. I think they're pretty cute. I'm also the sort of person, though, who thinks pet rats are really cute and mice are really cute, and geckos, so all of the small animals. In fact, initially, when I started 7-inch Kara has a pet house gecko named Dusty, and initially I was really concerned that it would put people off. Like, I recognize that I think these animals are cute, but for a really long time, other people didn't necessarily think these animals were cute or worthy of time or attention. And I've been really happy that that hasn't really been my experience as an adult. Ugh, I don't really like how I'm drawing this squirrel, but I'm gonna try and work it out. Partially because I just feel like all his features are, you know what I didn't do? I didn't follow my own rules and I didn't construct his little squirrely face. So let's take a step back and use a little bit of construction plus reference. I have squirrels pulled up on Google Images. And in my prior Inktober drawing tutorial, I went off about reference and how you should use it. So I'm not going to do that here. Oh, I know. That squirrel is like thin and awkwardly placed. And I'm just going to roll with it because I have this kind of in my way. For some of these, I've been really unhappy with how the ink wash has been turning out. So I was kind of thinking I might redraw some of these anyway, so that's okay. The point well, there's a few points to participating in Inktober, but one of them is to just, even if it's bad, just finish something. Now, finishing things has never really been my big problem, but I can definitely get behind the sentiment of just get it done. Worry about perfection another time. I think I see too many comic artists who like stress out about perfection to the point where they never get past the first chapter of their comic. So, you know, my stuff might not be perfect, but it's done. Okay, so I'm gonna have to erase a lot of stuff with the swirl as I'm tightening it up, but I kind of have the basics down. And that's not to slam anybody who really struggles with overcoming like this need for perfection. But like the thing is, senpai is not more likely to notice you if you're perfect. Senpai is more likely to notice you if you talk to them. So like, don't hinge all of your bets. Don't put all of your eggs in the senpai will notice me if I just make this one perfect comic page, because it's like, even if the person you admire and look up to knows you exist, if you're too perfect, they may have the same anxiety you have about talking to you. They may have the same anxiety that you have about talking to them about you. So just talk to them. All right, so now it's time to start kind of blocking in the tortoise. And here I was thinking this was going to be a really easy Inktober to demonstrate for you. Not that the tortoise itself is the problem. I just don't seem to know how not to overcomplicate things. I don't want him to look too sneaky. Not that I have a problem with snakes, but he's not a snake. He's a tortoise. My younger brother has a pet Russian tortoise that he named after Om in Terry Pratchett's Small Gods. So I'm kind of thinking about Om. And yes, a Lilliputian would totally have access to a non-native species like that. Such a thing as invasive species. Not that tortoises are necessarily invasive, but people will sometimes, not infrequently, release exotic pets, exotic animals into the wild that would never be found in that environment. And tortoises are not excluded from that. Well, he wants to see what's going on. So it is totally likely that even in like Louisiana, a Lilliputian would be able to find a tortoise or befriend a tortoise. All right, so I have kind of the basics of everything sketched in. Now I can start erasing extraneous details and refining details, and I'm going to do that going from left to right. So I kind of lied. I think instead I'm going to refine from foreground all the way to background. That's another method I like to use. Just kind of helps me work everything consistently. And I have reference, I'm not even joking, of photo of an unfolded road map pulled up because reference is your friend. And I want it to look like they're reading a road map. So that means including things like, I don't know, the key. And did you guys know that I have a lot of trouble reading maps? Like a lot of trouble. Like I was usually a straight A student, but in library skills class in 5th grade, we had a map reading assignment and I failed it twice because my brain has a really hard time with maps. So now you know something about me that you probably didn't care about, and that's okay. Oh man, drawing a map looks like it's gonna be a pain in the booty, but that's okay. Just do the compass star on it as well. Like all those little signifiers that let people know it's a map. I'm gonna sketch lightly because I gotta erase a lot of this anyway. because I can't keep it when I do my ink wash. Although I'm kind of tempted to do my inks and then do my ink wash after they've cured, because I've been doing the ink wash and then the inks and it's kind of sloppy. And I'd like to see if I can get tighter, but like part of my Inktober this year is like embracing being sloppy and just trying to like get better at creating coherency through chaos. So I also have my male Lilliputian clothes brought up. So I'll zoom in so you guys can actually see what I'm doing with his face. I've already kind of subdivided it and constructed a basic head. So I'm going to subdivide it into 3 eyes, his eyebrows, and give him a nice lost expression. Give him kind of a rounded button nose. One of the upsides to inking is that I could perhaps ink with all my construction lines in place and then just erase the whole thing, which would add, like, okay, so I draw these the day before I ink them. It would add about an hour of inking to my day, but it would take away that time to an extent later. It would mean I also don't have to erase so much. Definitely something to think about. And I'm walking you guys through that thought process because for those of you who are less experienced, I just kind of want you to know what your options are and how to weigh your pros and cons. I know that seems really obvious to those of you who are more established artists, more experienced artists. And all the good details which would like hang from his belt are going to be hidden. Same for her and the boots. So we're actually losing a lot of storytelling ability by covering so much of them. All right, so talked in the past about talking about hair and cartoony hair. So he's gonna have kind of a bouffant sort of thing where he's got like a lot of hair in the front pulled back into a ponytail. So I already kind of made a little note where the ponytail is going. So I have a direction I'm pulling the hair towards. So think like Gaston, I guess. So I kind of draw the major forms and then I tighten it up into the minor forms. And, you know, I should probably practice drawing hair more and get a little more realistic so I can cartoon a little bit better. That's something maybe I'll do in November when I have a little more time. Draw a little stray lock. After all, he's been traveling. And then messengers actually have kind of a set uniform, and they have kind of a town crier's horn that they carry at their side. But unfortunately, you're not really going to see that. But they usually wear like a hooded. Well, that means we're gonna lose his ponytail. They usually wear like a little hooded cape, even in warm weather, and it's just kind of intended to protect them against the elements. And also so that like traditionalists, etc., can kind of recognize them at a distance and know that they just come bearing news, since traditionalists don't really get along super well with like merchants. Although even traditionalists have kind of sworn to provide hospitality. That's sort of a Lilliputian thing, is that they have to provide hospitality to travelers. We're going to lose some of his ponytail. I'll try to keep it as much as I can. So now we have kind of a teenager messenger guy. And I'll actually aim to make her an older lady, since I don't really draw enough middle-aged people. or elderly people either. In last year's Lilliputian Living, I made it a point to be a little more inclusive in that regard, so I should definitely try to uphold that this year. Oh, I guess I could have drawn his ponytail coming towards the front. Okay, so the rest of him, you're not even going to be able to see. I kind of want to redo his ponytail so it's coming more towards the front, so like it's laying over his shoulder. I can only imagine I know how itchy it will be going through a hoodie. I hate stuff like that, so you can imagine someone who's been out in the woods, slightly lost, hot and sweaty, would probably hate it more than I hate it. We kind of got him tightened up. Next, we're going to work on her. All right, I'm going to start in on her. And I'm going to begin by dividing the eye area into 3. And I have a picture of somebody kind of wearing like a drapey style cape. So I thought that might be interesting for her to wear. Give her some earrings, since she would probably have access to things like that. But she's been working as a merchant for a long time, so she probably doesn't wear her best stuff when she's out traveling. But she also probably knows the value of looking good when you're trying to sell people things. It's bad news if an older lady who's been doing the trade circuit for a while is lost too. Okay, so now that I kind of have their poses and their clothing established, I can kind of go back in and erase basically everything down here. I really hate doing big erasures like that because you lose a lot of important visual information that can kind of guide how you complete the rest of the piece or ink the rest of the piece, but it is pretty important for the ink wash technique that I'm utilizing. Reestablish that compass rose. But I'll make it even worse. I'll have it upside down, making them even more lost. Although, honestly, I don't know why they're using a human map. That would not be useful. They would have to have their own. Oh well. I guess all I can say is she should know better. Maybe he's just finishing his apprenticeship and this is the first time he's really been sent out. But she should know better. Maybe she doesn't realize it's upside down. Okay, and rather than doing torn, the smart part of me knows that I should at least sketch in the map lines, but part of me is also like, just do it in ink. Guess I'll do it in ink. Map would have torn because they've got it kind of crumpled on the ground. All right, so the map has been sketched. Now it is time to finish up our animals, which fortunately isn't actually that much work. It's just cleaning some stuff up and adding some details. And I have to say, I'm just really not a fan of this Raider Knox seed eraser. It's too floppy. It's not held sturdy enough. So like if I bear down to erase, it takes a lot more effort to do so. So just because you see me using it doesn't mean I recommend it. I'm trying to use what I have. The first time I went to Japan, and I spent most of my time, or all of my time really, in Tokyo, I went on the SCAD trip. I bought a bunch of erasers with the intention of reviewing them, and then I didn't. And this is one of those. So I guess what I could do is I could just start kind of keeping a log of them, like a Google Doc, and then if anybody's really interested, they can read that, and I'll just release, like, I don't know, my top recommendations. Some of these are kind of annoying to get a hold of anyway. You would need like a Japanese art supply store, or like a Japanese stationery store. Like even JetPens doesn't carry everything. I know that's people's go-to, like, oh, you should just check JetPens, and it's like, maybe if I want like a Midori planner, but I don't. I want to give the squirrel something that indicates that it's more of a pet. I don't want to put a bell on it, because for something that runs around wild, that would attract possibly predators. Maybe just like an acorn charm. I know that's kind of trite, but don't we do stuff like that to our pets? Trite things. We dress them as hamburgers and Yoda and all kinds of. We dress wiener dogs up like hot dogs. Wouldn't assume Lilliputians are necessarily above some cute triteness. To them, it wouldn't even be trite, because a charm like that would probably be pretty hard to come by. Maybe he traded with this merchant here, though. Merchants travel light. Maybe he's got news of her family or her daughter or something, and she gave him a cute charm for his squirrel as a bit of a thank you. That's really the fun part, I think, about drawing, just like randomly generating new characters, is you get to come up with backstories for them. When I was younger, that was like my favorite thing about drawing, is I would just make up these elaborate stories as I drew. I'm sure everybody does this. But it would like really keep me invested, and it helped me stay invested even when I knew my art wasn't good. It became not about the art, whether or not it was good enough, but it became about the stories I could tell myself, and sort of just having something I could escape into. For me, drawing has always been about, escapism, creating worlds that don't have the problems that everyday life have, and that's the kind of stories I try to make. And I don't want to go like wholly unrealistic, so they don't even depict real human interactions or real character interactions, because I think that's important. But I think kids and adults deserve escapes, happy escapes. I don't think everything in literature needs to be grimdark. I don't think it makes you a better writer. I mean, I think it's got its place, but like, I don't think that should be all that literature should aspire to be. So I know in some circles that is like considered the better writing, and I just kind of avoid participating in those circles because I disagree so strongly that I get kind of annoying and angry about it, and nobody wants to hear that. So I just take myself elsewhere and take my happy little stories elsewhere. Just gonna do a few scales just so that we have some reference. And I need to definitely do them on the legs. That said though, like if you want to do some grand epic or if you want to write some grand tragedy, I don't think that makes you less of a writer either. I just don't think it makes anybody more of one. Like I think it takes all different types of literature to really make the world go around, and we all need different things at different times. So there's times when you definitely want to read something that's more gritty or something that's more realistic or something that's just like totally out of your realm. She would have her goods strapped to his back. Can you imagine what I know it looks like a box of cigarettes. It's a box of crayons. Can you imagine what a big treat a whole box of crayons would be for a tiny, that's like a whole, like, it's like two school, like you could chop all these crayons up and make multiple crayons and just like go from Lilliputian community to Lilliputian community and distribute bits of crayon sets. Obviously, I'm into that idea. Oh my gosh, she's gonna distribute school supplies. That's what she is. School. Oh my gosh, she's a lost school supply merchant. So she's probably always done like the same circuit, and like I don't know, maybe she's taken over her daughter's circuit or her son's circuit or her husband's circuit to help out. Maybe one of them got injured or pregnant or I don't know, something else. And so she's taking over their circuit for a while. All right, well, I think I am about done with penciling this. I will not ink this for you guys. I already have a few examples where I did ink wash. But you can check out the finished piece at my Instagram at instagram.com/netosoup, and you can read the prompt there. If you like what I do and you want to help support what I do, you can join me over on my Patreon, which is patreon.com/netosoup, or you can purchase a copy of this zine or any of my other zines through netosoup.com. I really request that you don't wait until a convention to buy something from me, just because I'm trying to cut down on conventions and I'm already kind of, I mean, you can, like, I'm not saying don't ever buy anything, but I get a lot of people who are like, if you're ever in the Toronto area, if you're ever in the Wisconsin area, and it's like, I don't want to say never, but I'm probably not going to be. So if you can afford to do so, and that's the way you want to support me, then ordering online is a really great way. And it means I'm not reliant on conventions for my income, and you're not reliant on me traveling to your neck of the woods in order to enjoy my work. So I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I hope this was useful, helpful, inspiring, or informative. I hope you learned something. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. That either way is fine, but I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope I'll see you guys again really soon. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I've actually gotten good about, keeping up with those again, because my anxiety's gotten kind of back under control. So I'm going to try to keep up with that as much as possible. So if you have any questions, let me know. I apologize that it does sometimes take me a while to record videos that answer those questions. And it's just an unfortunate side effect of being self-employed. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I'll see you again really soon. Bye, guys.